Hi everybody. So the video today, I have my cards out, is to get into the basics of how I would teach somebody how to read tarot the way I do it, which is largely by intuition, and how I taught you to do it, yes?
Yeah.
This is my daughter Olivia, for those of you who don't remember her appearance a time or two on camera with me. So, your basic pack of cards looks like this. And this is about the size of them. They're a little bit larger than your typical playing cards. Every one of them is going to have an image, and every one of them is going to be either what would be considered a suit card, and we'll get to all of this in a couple of minutes, or what would be considered a major arcana card. And again, we'll get to that here in a couple of minutes. So, you know all of this, but we're going to go way back to basics. What are the two typical spreads that would appear in those tiny little books that generally are shoved in with the new pack of tarot cards?
A 3-card spread and the Celtic Cross.
Correct. So with the 3-card spread, that's exactly what it sounds like. In the position, you're only pulling 3 cards, would signify past, present, and future. With a Celtic Cross, that is typically a lot more cards, and we'll get into that in a minute because I'm going to do a reading and walk you through it and get your input on it. And I'll move the camera so you can see, and we'll show what the positions are as I lay them out. And I'll explain basically what the positions are for those of you who have your own decks and who also read. Each book is slightly different. It's also generally done by a different publishing house. And so they may explain the positions of the cards slightly different than what I have always known. Now, your major arcana are ones like this one, which is the Hanged Man, or even this one, which is the World. Every last one of them will have numbers somewhere on the cards. And this one also has what it is in a different language on the bottom. I happen to like the World card, and it's a pretty monumental card, although not as monumental as something like the Tower, or there's a couple of others out there, depending on the spread and the question that's asked, that can be pretty monumental. Think of major arcana as help from a higher power. If you are a monotheistic based person in your religious practice, then you would think of it as a help from, say, a guardian angel or from God or things of that nature. If you're a little more polytheistic like we are, then you would think of it as help from one of the gods or goddesses. You would think of it as help from maybe your spirit guides, things of that nature. As for the minor arcana, and you're already aware of this, your minor arcana are what would be considered your suit cards. And to explain that, you have your cups, your wands, your swords, and your pentacles or your coins, depending on the ones that you choose or the deck that you choose. Sorry, my husband is in the background and trying not to sneeze really loud on camera. So, for those of you who don't necessarily have the knowledge base just yet, or a lot, to read by intuition, some key things to remember with the different suit cards, and I created a little cheat sheet for you on this, and thank you for your help on that, is think about your cups. Okay, cups are generally associated with water. Water is very much known for emotions, anything emotional based. That can be things such as, and I'm going back to my notes so I don't forget anything, but creativity can be emotional based. Your intuition is largely based on your emotions as well as feelings, and there's that feeling or word again, but it's also based on a sense of knowing, which kind of goes into another one, which would be your suit of wands. Wands are generally, look at the cheat sheet.
Wands are typically willpower and inspiration, as well as, I can't read your handwriting.
They also can indicate travel.
Yes.
So it really depends on the question that is asked and the surrounding cards as to what they may represent in the reading itself. Then you have your pentacles or coins, and I'm going to help you out with this one. People typically associate pentacles and coins with financial security, stability, anything monetarily based. So if they're asking a question about their career and you're seeing a lot of pentacles come up, that tells you, especially dependent upon other cards in the spread, whether or not that's good or bad. Then you have the Suit of Swords, and swords can be
ambition. They can also be logic or even conflict.
And intelligence, but yes, you're not wrong. So I'm going to put your cheat sheet away because we don't need it. Clearly, you remember a lot. So with all of that being said, there are a lot of people out there who choose to do readings this way, face to face. They have somebody nearby, and if that were the case, then we would probably hand the deck over to that person, have them focus on the question that they want answered. Now, and I said this in a prior video, if there's something else that is pertinent to their life and what's going on in their world at the moment, then the question they're focusing on may or may not be the question that is answered in the reading. And in which case, I'm still going to do the reading because something other than me is dictating that they have a message that needs to be received. And you know this, you've been doing tarot for several years now. With all of that, that is something that I would also like to touch bases on, because what do you do if that person isn't right there with you? I've done lives for you guys before, and there are other tarot readers out there who do lives, and we're interacting with you in a video, but you aren't here with us. So how do we work that? For me, at least, and I can't speak for everybody else, for me, I am going to look at the name, I'm going to look at the question that is asked, or if you're helping me moderate or someone else is helping me moderate, then they're usually going to tell me, hey, you've got a question here, and I'm going to focus on that question. Keeping in mind, when we're doing lives or I'm doing a live, I know nothing about the person that I'm reading for. I know that there is this person with this username and they are asking me a question. But by focusing on that question, I'm like to think that in a manner of speaking, I'm tuning into them, into their frequency, into their vibe, if you will. And I'm picking up on what's being sent through the interwebs. And so that's kind of how that whole process works. It's really hard to explain, because a lot of what we do as readers is focus simply on what is in front of us and not the how-tos behind it. How are we getting that feeling? How are we getting that answer? So when I start out, and I haven't done it with this deck, or actually I did do it with this deck looking at them, if it's been a while since I've read, and I'm talking more than 2 or 3 days, I'm talking weeks or even months at a time, what I'll do is, personally, I focus on white light, I focus on purity, I focus on cleansing. I might have a little bit of incense going in the background, or maybe have some clear quartz nearby, or even black obsidian to absorb the negativity. There will be another video later where we go into incognito ways to do cleansings and banish negativity, so hold tight because that video is coming. But with all of that, there is these cards, and I have gone through and I have flipped them all face up. Now, I don't read with every card all faced up, but I do turn them all face up because it allows me the opportunity to clear my mind and also kind of clear the deck, if you will. When I'm shuffling the cards, inadvertently, somehow I end up turning the cards. I don't do it actively, but inevitably it happens. And so you can also clear the deck by simply shuffling the cards and focusing on it. This is a lot of experience and a lot of practice to be able to shuffle the cards in air so you guys can see what I'm doing instead of on a table, although I've been known to do it on the table too, this way, without flipping them all over. And that's happened a few times. And where you realize, okay, well, now we're playing 52 card pickup, and you have to just kind of roll with it. So let's focus on a question. And this one, let's focus on a career-based question for your dad.
Sure.
Okay. He is not in the room. He hasn't come back through. He doesn't even know that we're doing a reading for him, but that's what we're focusing on. So, you got that thought in your head?
How Dad's career with this new job is possibly going to go.
Yep.
Because you've always taught me that the future is not written in stone and can always change.
You're right, and good point. Thank you for that. Any reading that is done, I generally will give out the disclaimer that nothing is set in stone. This is how I see things going right now in this moment in time. You can change your future and you can change what the cards say is going to happen by maybe changing your thought process or doing something a little bit differently, or you speak a little bit differently. I'm very, very big on what you put out, you draw to you. So you've heard me mention before about expressing gratitude. You're familiar with this because I've been drilling it into you for years. I have literally changed my day when I was having a really, really crappy day at work by focusing on things that I'm grateful for. In fact, I actually have it printed out and cut out and taped to my computer. What are you grateful for today? Because by focusing on things that I'm happy about and that I'm grateful for and expressing that gratitude, I'm reminding myself that the negative situation or the me wanting to throttle this particular person who just came up and spoke to me and they were just really, really ass about it is only momentary. So we are going to focus on something else. I've just kind of been clearing the cards as I'm talking. You have your thought in mind, right?
How is Dad's career with this new job possibly going to go?
Okay, so you can narrow that down and just focus on Dad career, if that's easier for you. It doesn't have to be that long and that drawn out, and I have dog glitter. Oops, okay, cards are telling me it's your turn, so go ahead and shuffle. She is here with me, so I'm going to have her shuffle until she feels that we're done shuffling.
The way I personally shuffle is not like my mother. I tend to do it this way.
And that's okay too. I've seen people who have put the cards on a table and swirled them around and scrambled them up and put them back together. You had to jump out?
Yep.
Okay. So I've taught her if you are shuffling the cards and you have jumpers, then those are cards that absolutely want to be read and may or may not be as part of a spread. So this is a prime, you've pulled 3 cards. Hold those for a second. On a prime opportunity for a 3-card spread, we're going to flip the cards. Now, when we're flipping cards, and I'm just turning them the way she had them this way, so they're this way to me. I never flip a card end over end this way or long ways. I always flip it sideways. And the reason for that is to allow me to read the card the way it was put down. If I flip it end over end this way, it's one way. So this way, flipping it end over end like this, it's right side up. But if I flip it the way it was laid down this way, it's upside down. This particular card, and I went a little bit fast, is the Element of Wands, or the Elemental of Wands. So this in a 3-card spread, On the far left is, so right here, past. How far past is up to the person you're reading for to kind of determine. The middle card is current situation, and that is a Three of Pentacles. Remember what the different suits signify. And then the future card is the Moon. Now, all three of these cards are reversed, and I will read them as such. Just because a card is reversed does not mean that it is going to be a negative reading. There are people out there who believe that you never want to read cards reversed. You only want to read them right side up. In my experience and the way I read cards, I'm not that way. I will read them however they come out. And I've taught you to do the same thing. Yes?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to flip the other two back over. We're going to focus on the past, the Element of Wands. So what do you feel from this card?
Not knowing your deck the way you do, I would ask if this is similar to the ace of that particular suit.
Similar to, yes.
It would be more like a knight or a page, correct?
What do you pull?
An elemental to me signifies like a knight.
Okay. And what is the card telling you?
What's this one? Elemental of Wands.
Stand there because you're actually going to shuffle here in a minute.
I see a past with fire. Something that is done with passion, or perhaps also irritation or ambition. Those are all things that are coming to me.
All of which could apply to your dad. Okay, the present, which in this one is the Three of Pentacles reversed. What are you pulling?
I see potential driven by passion. Potential for a great monetary gain. Or perhaps a chance to learn something that is not currently in their skill set.
Okay, and the future, which is the Moon reversed. This is a major arcana card for those who aren't aware.
The Moon is typically a card for like intuition and clarity. In reverse, I see this as something being drawn to light, something coming into the open, something that's not hidden anymore.
Okay. Now, that's her reading. She's still relatively new to reading cards and whatnot. And again, she isn't familiar with this deck and the energies with the deck. For the Elemental of Wands reversed, I agree with you on your assertion. Something done with passion, with drive, with initiative, and motivation. The Three of Pentacles, this tells me of current frustrations and that things aren't currently going the way that was originally planned. With the Moon reversed, I 100% agree with you. Things that were hidden before, or hidden from you before, or him as the case may be, are now being brought to the light. Things such as perhaps somebody stabbing you in the back at work, or secrets that were being hidden, or different situations that you were maybe unaware of before that will come to light. Things that have been holding you back or blocked are going to be brought to the light, and he'll be made aware of those things. all good things overall, and every last one of those cards was reversed. So, honey, you don't have to get on camera. I know you don't want to. Clearing the deck. Focus on career, if you would, please. Now, he is off camera. He chooses not to appear on camera, and that's fine. He's shuffling the cards, focusing on career. And as you can hear, he shuffles much the same way I do. In a typical card shuffle, he just chooses to use the table that we're using. Oh, we got a jumper. So we'll set that one to the side. When you feel done, go ahead and hand me the cards, if you would, please. I do want you to cut them into 3 separate piles from left to right. One, two. Okay, put the deck back together in any order that you see fit. Thank you. Okay, so he set the cards down this way, and since I want to read the cards in the fashion in which, or the way that they were facing him, I'm going to rotate them 180 degrees. So now the cards are in my hand the way that he laid them down on the table in front of me. We're going to read the jumper first, which in this case, and I just flipped it over, is Justice. Right side up, we have a current lawsuit out against a company where he is the petitioner or plaintiff, and Justice. Right side up, since he focused on career and this lawsuit directly affected his career, I would say, dear, things are going to go in our favor. I know that that has largely been on his mind, and I'm not at all surprised to see that that card jumped out when he was focusing on career. In so far as, well, it is a monetary type thing, it is also something that I know has been weighing heavily on his mind, and he'd like an answer to. So he just got a simple 1-card answer. And sometimes readings are just that, simple 1-card answers. Now, we did the 3-card spread. We're going to give an example of a Celtic cross. I'm going to hold the cards while I lay them out so you can see how I flip them over, and I can show you the cards. On a typical Celtic cross, which has a card here, a card that crosses it, then you start above, to the right, below, and to the left. That is a position of how the cards will be. Personally, I wait to flip the remaining 4 cards until we have done the main card spread. So, the first card is the stars, and this card is reversed. This card signifies the person that is asking the question or the individual. So in this case, it signifies my husband. The second card is the Novice of Swords. Think of this one almost like a jack, if you will. Okay, flipping it, and you saw how I flipped it over. This card is reversed, but you always read the card that crosses you right side up. Next, we have the Distant Past Foundation. Think of that as anything over 6 months ago. That card is the Ace of Wands. That one is also reversed. He shuffled this himself. I'm just flipping them the way he shuffled them. Next, we have the Recent Past Foundation. This is usually roughly 3 to 6 months prior. This card is a 7 of Wands, and as it just so happens, is also reversed. Next, We have current events. Think of this as roughly, probably about a month or so prior, maybe up to about 6 weeks, to roughly 6 months in advance. This is current events. Things are currently going on. This one is a Ten of Pentacles reversed. Then we have future, anything over 6 months. This one is a Four of Pentacles reversed. Now, most people would panic at seeing that many reversed cards. However, with that many reversed cards, a lot of these are going to have a very, very powerful positive meaning. We will wait to flip the remaining 4 cards, so I'm setting my deck down, in part because I tend to talk with my hands. Now, the Star is reversed. That is the first card, and we're going to hold it up again so everybody can see it. A Major Arcana, looking at this spread right now, that is the only Major Arcana card we have that is in play. Remember, Major Arcana represents spiritual help or help from a higher power. So, what do you pull? And this one we'll do simultaneous. So you'll read, I'll read. We may converse a little bit during the whole thing, but go ahead. Star is reversed.
I don't quite remember off the top of my head what the star signifies or its reversal, but right now I see...
You don't have to give a book reading. I don't read by the book. I'm not one who is book memorized. So, what does your intuition tell you about this card?
I see darkness, but not like bad darkness. I see...
Not like negativity or being surrounded in depression.
I see darkness as in something about to be born, like rebirth, like... The word that comes to mind is resurrection, but I don't think that's what I mean.
Actually, it would play, especially looking at the other cards, but we'll get there in a minute. I see with this card, maybe dreams fading. They are, in this case, perhaps feeling a little bit dejected. There's been a lot going on where there's been a bunch of no's and maybe starting to feel like there isn't going to be a yes in play. We've already seen that there are yeses in play. They just aren't seen yet. But I do agree with what you said about rising from the ashes, or a phoenix-like, so to speak, making a comeback. I agree with that. Okay, so the next card is What Crosses You. This card, I always read face up. That's how I was taught. This one is the Novice of Swords. I was thinking it was Pentacles. So, there we go. I got to get it on camera for you. Sorry. This is a young adult.
I see standing in your own way. That you are your own obstacle. Or they are.
Okay. Actually, I would agree with that. So sabotage would be something that this card could represent in this spread. Standing in your own way, you are your own obstacle. I very much agree with that. Now, typically, the book may not indicate something like that. This is why we read intuitively, because the readings tend to be a lot more accurate than something you're reading out of a book, which is probably largely not going to make sense in my experience. Something else I see with this card is a lot of self-reflection, and that plays directly into the stars. There's been a lot of contemplating going on, whether cognizantly or subconsciously. There's been a lot of retrospection going on, thinking back, thinking, how could I have done things differently? How could I have changed things? And to a certain extent, some coulda, woulda, shouldas going on.
Guilt.
Possibly. Ace of Wands. Is this one? Yes, the Ace of Wands. And that card is distant past foundation. This is far enough back that it could be an event or events that have shaped where you're currently at with things.
I see damage. I see the words coming to mind are damage, wreckage.
You can't see the look on his face, but he's over here acknowledging through facial expressions that you're not wrong.
Damage, wreckage, disaster, something very significant that wasn't necessarily good.
All spot on, by the way, and I wholeheartedly agree. Which bring about more recent events, which is the Seven of Wands reversed. This is not a pentacle, but this is a very stressful type situation. This is going over documents, going over contracts, going over things. And in this particular situation, in this reading, personally, how I view it, and you can give me your input on this in a second, is laying foundational work over the past, whether it be day, week, month, 6 months, whatever, that are turning things around. This, like I said, most people would view a largely reversed reading as negative. No, this is allowing things to turn around. That card, and do you pick up anything different before I move on to the next one?
I definitely pick up on like planning, like putting things into motion, foundation laying, like putting down the path so you may walk it without contest.
There has been some opposition to the best laid plans. That would be the reversed part of that. But overall, this isn't a horrible reading. The next one is a Ten of Pentacles in reverse. This tells me patience. This is a card that to me signifies you're not going to get instant gratification, that patience is going to have to come into play. Possibly a career change, and possibly even a change in the type of work. So, for example, in this situation, it could be something from, let's say you were working with people with disabilities and now you're going to go and start working in a position where you're driving. Something like that. It could be a potential total type of career shift. It could also be a situation where maybe you're changing companies that you're working for and still doing the same thing. But the overall thing that is screaming at me from this one is patience.
Patience, but the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is potential for change, if not change itself.
It's coming, maybe not as quickly as you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is future events according to the cards that are surrounded, but also the card itself. In this situation, this is a Four of Pentacles and it is reversed. Now, typically you might read this as a negative card. However, this is something that is telling me that the way things are currently going, if you don't heed the prior cards, then yet you're going to continue to struggle. If you put in the time to think back, look at things that you've done before that have always gotten you the same result, and then you don't apply those lessons or learn those lessons, then you're going to keep getting the same result that you had before. And the inclination is to keep doing what you've always done because that's what you're comfortable with. That's how we create patterns with things, is that's what we're comfortable with. However, doing what you're comfortable with doesn't always get you the greatest of results. Taking the leap when you might be scared to or apprehensive to can oftentimes net you a larger gain. For example, off topic a little bit, but you were nervous about going to school. You're taking that leap and you start school next week. Your entire world is about to change. If we were to do a reading on that, it would very much come through in the cards. So, do you have anything to add to that card before we get to the final 4 cards?
I pick up on modesty and humility. Like,
Have you met your dad?
Unfortunately. I see something between these happening that's significant enough to
like a humbling experience. Is that what you're searching for?
Yeah, an experience that is significant enough to initiate self-reflection that leads to some form of modesty or humility.
Okay. So we have the final 4 cards. These are stacked straight up the side in 4. I'll move the camera when we're done so that way you can see what the spread looks like. And this isn't my final setup on doing readings and videos and stuff. That's still in transition right now, so we're kind of making this work. So the next card, this one, signifies the individual you're doing the reading for, in this case my husband, who is off camera. This card is the Fool, and it is upside down. So let's read that one.
The Fool upright is very much symbolic of new beginnings, being like fresh out of your egg. Upside down, I read this as same song and dance, done this before, perhaps even boredom.
I would say if this were a standalone card, I would agree with that. However, looking at the other cards that are already in the spread, I would say the Fool, which is a Major Arcana card, plays directly in with the Star, which is the other Major Arcana card. And I would say that this one very much signifies coming into oneself and kind of falling into where you're meant to be.
Like
You've been played in a certain aspect, yes. You've been played for the Fool before. You've gotten in your own way. You've self-sabotaged, whatever. And this card to me signifies lessons learned and that you're kind of moving out of that. Or he is, this is kind of his reading. Okay, this one is environments. And this one is the Chariot. If you get in a wreck, I will kill you. The Chariot is reversed. It is also a Major Arcana card. So, upright, that could actually be considered a somewhat negative card. In this situation, and I was kidding because if you look at it, this is actually a picture of somebody having car troubles. This is unforeseen events coming into play. This is things that are out of your control that are coming, and they're actually coming with some speed. There are things that are going to come to fruition. It's basically like you've sown the seeds, now you're waiting for the harvest, so to speak, in this particular spread. Do you agree?
I definitely see something unexpected. Whether it's good or bad, I can't tell. But so therefore, I agree with you.
Well, you don't have to agree with me just to agree with me, but...
Oh, I agree with you otherwise.
Okay, next card. This is Hopes and Fears of the Questioner. Flipping it over, this is the Hierophant. And that card is also reversed, and it is a Major Arcana. I did not plan this. So, the Hierophant reversed, there is definitely some change coming, and it is coming from a source outside of you and outside of your control. So we've got a lot of change happening, a lot of things that you've put out the energy, you're getting the energy back. Do you agree?
Yeah. I feel something similar to the Tower, but not quite the Tower.
Okay, so if you've been following tarot for a while, tower cards or tower moments are literally things where your entire world is shaken upside down. Everything does a 180, and you're left kind of going, well, what the hell happened? How do I get through this? That type of a thing. And that's what she's referencing. I'm not seeing that in this spread, but there are definitely some changes coming, and he's getting a lot of help from outside sources, things that he may or may not be aware of. There is help coming, and it's there and has been there for a while. Final card, this is the final outcome according to the question that he asked and the surrounding cards. And this one, interesting, is the Lovers, and it is reversed. Now, this card, generally people will see it and they think, oh, they're two lovebirds, blah, 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 blah. And that card in this spread, not so much, but also if you look at the card, you have one person, whoops, right here, you have a couple down here, and you have people over here. So this is not a lovey-dovey card as it is in most other readings. And given the fact that this is a career spread, one might think, okay, well, that is, how does that play into the rest of the reading? I say that from what I'm picking up, and you can agree or disagree, speak out, is there's going to be a choice of two paths. That doesn't necessarily mean a romantic choice in this particular spread. It's a career-based spread. This to me comes down to balance and finding balance between, and it's coming, this is the final result, a balance between home life and career path. And finding that happy balance between the two. I feel like this card in reverse means very much that there is a struggle there. Not an exterior struggle, not coming to blows and fighting and stuff like that, or even screaming and yelling at each other, but an internal conflict. When you're at home, you want to be at work because if you're working, you're making money and bills are getting paid and so on. But when you're at work, you want to be at home. You miss your wife, you miss your kids, you miss your family, and that's where you would rather be. And so there's that kind of conflict there, but I do sense that overall and in general, that balance will be found.
No, I agree.
Do you have anything else to add?
What comes immediately to mind is being forced to choose.
Okay, how so?
Maybe it's just anxiety speaking, but the two paths, you eventually have to choose to go down one of them.
Okay, and I can see where you're going with that. No, your dad and I are not going to get a divorce. I can see that is written all over you, beautiful girl. And that is certainly not on the table, nor will it ever be on the table. But making a choice, you're not wrong. And let me explain how. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Anything in life, you have to make a choice. And the choices that you make will always have consequences for the choices that you make. When you choose to go to work and you work outside of the home, then there is that choice there. Even though your heart may be at home and you want to be at home, there is still that choice made, because if you aren't working, you don't get paid and so on. If you make a choice to eat the dinner that's made, you're not going to have a hungry belly. You're not going to go to bed hungry or starve or whatever. If you make the choice to not eat, then, and you live in a home where that's what there is and there isn't any money to buy any other food, or you could have another meal or what have you, then you are making that choice to not eat, to be hungry, and so on and so forth. We all make choices every day. It's just a matter of, can you live with the consequences of the choices that you make? In this particular spread, I don't disagree about a choice is going to have to be made, but I don't think that it's a type of choice that you are anxious about. My gut is I think it will come down to a choice between one job or another, or one job and several. I think that there will be multiple opportunities out there, more than one, and a choice is going to have to be made there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is a financial type reading.
Right.
And unfortunately, we live in a society where emotions are generally tied to finances. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, overall, not a bad reading. I did promise that I would pick up the camera and show you what this spread actually looks like. It's on a tripod, so you're going to have to bear with me. Liv, can you see can they all see?
A tage higher. A little bit higher. And this way a little bit. Yeah.
So there's the spread as it is laid out. Point to each card, please, and I'll explain it. Individual, what crosses them. Distant past foundation is at the top. Recent past foundation. Current events. Future events. Individual. Environments. Hopes and fears. Final outcome. And our jumper is over here, set aside. So, sorry, juggled the camera. Thank you for sitting down with a reading with my daughter and myself. We are going to go up and have dinner and spend the evening with the rest of our family. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I will get it posted here momentarily, and there will be other videos coming soon. Love and light to everyone.